What's going on YouTube? Username Kite562 here, and I have another Beastars review of Volume 17. Now, these reviews will have some spoilers in them, but not too much to ruin the experience for new readers, and as always, Beastars is written and illustrated by Paru Itagaki and published by Viz Media. So, let's get on with the review. And if you hear any background noise in the background, I'll try my best to edit it out. So, there's that. So anyway, my first point from this manga is Lugoshi and Louis and the Shishigumi talk about Melon's weakness with the leader of the Kopi Luwark organization named Dashiko. Now Dashiko is a musk cat, and he's been, researching mixed species beasts, like blends between carnivores and herbivores. And I just thought it was really interesting because we get to see a little bit of a backstory on Dashiko, and that he thinks his only value is to make perfume or coffee from his droppings that his gut bacteria provides. So, again, his droppings provide coffee in some way, shape, or form. I just thought it was really interesting read, and how Paru just really opens up about these different little character scenarios. So anyway, point number 3, Haru has had a hard time focusing on her history class, so she has lunch with her professor. Now, I'm not going to name names on who the professor is. Again, support the official release, read the manga, watch the anime, whatever. But anyway, Haru has lunch with her professor because she can't really figure out a good way to start her essay assignment. And it's an essay topic about the relationship between carnivores and herbivores, and we get to know about a little event called the Carnivore and Herbivore World War. And since, carnivores were known as life-eating beasts at the time, and then herbivores were known as nature-eating beasts, I just thought it was a really eye-opening experience, and this professor is just really articulated and really surprising, but I'm not going to say who it is. Again, read the manga. You get to know about a little event called the Carnivore and Herbivore World War. And since, carnivores were known as life-eating beasts at the time, and then herbivores were known as nature-eating beasts, I just thought it was a really eye-opening experience, and this professor is just really articulated and really surprising, but I'm not going to say who it is. Again, read the manga. So anyway, point number 4, as we get on into the manga, Louis tries to act like a normal herbivore in society, but his interactions with carnivores is deeply ingrained in his mind. Now, we all know from Volume 4 that Louis grew up in the back alley market as livestock, and he is the heir to the Horns conglomerate, and it's just a really fascinating thing to see Louis just struggle with his internal challenges, and since he's had so many positive and somewhat negative experience with carnivores, that he wants to spend more time with them. So Louis decides to join up with the Shishigumi again to meet up with the Kopi Luwark leader, the Shiko, or Daishiko, however you want to say it. But this volume alone really has a nice experience to it. So anyway, point number 5, Haru pays a visit to Lugoshi after he had the meeting with the Kopi Luwark organization. Now, Lugoshi had some coffee along with the Shishigumi with Daishiko, and it just turned into a chaotic mess, and it was just really hysterical. So, the coffee itself really heightens a carnivore's instincts or desire for meat, if you will. And I just thought it was a really hilarious moment, the expressions of all the members there, Lugoshi and I think it was Dolph butted heads together to, get over their craving for meat, and they're just all drooling over Louis' presence. So he's like, your snack is leaving the premises, and I thought that part was really funny. So Anyway, Haru pays a visit to Lugoshi after he had the meeting with the Kopi Luwark organization. Now, Lugoshi's still on the side effects of the coffee, so Lugoshi is kind of suspicious of Haru of having interactions with another male, which she did have sort of a meeting interaction with her college professor, and he's just all sorts of creepy. And again, I am not going to say who he is. Go read the manga. Again, this video is not sponsored, but seriously, go read the manga. So, yeah, Lugoshi thinks that Haru's been sleeping around again with another male, and he tries to ask her, is she enjoying college life? But she sees through his bullshit, which I thought was, again, hysterical. So they end up having a heart-to-heart about talking if they're compatible reproductively. And I'll just leave it at that. So they have a short term of shenanigans, and it was just so heartwarming and funny, in my opinion. It was just a really enjoyable experience for me as a reader. And it was just an all-in-all wonderful experience. So, after a certain nightmare scenario, Lugoshi's fur turns all white after having something tragic happen while Haru was staying the night. Now, you could say that Lugoshi was having a nightmare, and I'm just going to leave it at that, because I really don't want to spoil the manga here in this review. And then, point number 7, Lugoshi leaves Haru at his apartment so he can go track down Melon. Now, this is after Lugoshi's fur turned all white, so he kind of gets mistaken for a carnivore wolf in his 30s that's kind of beat up. And I just thought it was a really interesting design, and you can definitely see it here on the front cover. So I just thought it's really wonderful. So, if the light can get it, I'll even do that a little bit more. I just love this cover. It's just really nice. So but as we go further along in the volume, for my next point, Louis notices the withdrawal symptoms of carnivore college students who ate meat for the first time from the back alley market. Now, the manga refers to this as like a meat high for carnivores, so maybe it's like the first time of them having a cigarette or experimenting with certain drugs in college life. I never did, I'm just saying. But anyway, Louis feels some sympathy for carnivores, so he tries to help one of them out as they're both eating lunch with one another. So he just hands that carnivore some mint, which helps relieve some of those withdrawal symptoms, which I thought was a really interesting fact within this manga volume alone. So, anyway, my point number 9 that I want to talk about, Haru notices the way her history professor holds her from behind in a similar way to Lugoshi grabbed her in volume 1. Now, it's raining, and they're in like a little hallway exit kind of area, and the professor just sneaks up behind her and grabs her almost similarly to the way Lugoshi grabbed her from volume 1. You know, the fountain scene where he's like hunched over her and he kind of has his hand over her cheek of her face. You know, that pose. Like, you can definitely see it in the anime poster too. Google it if you want. So, I just thought that was a really interesting take, because Haru kind of notices that. She kind of freaks out and just pushes the professor away with the palm of her hand next to his neck and chin. So I just thought that was really great. And on top of that, when the professor and Haru were discussing her paper, is that Haru said something around the lines that a relationship between carnivores and herbivores is like my relationship with this pasta. It exists so I can eat it, or something around those lines. Let me know the quote down below. I just thought it was a really interesting revelation for Haru, because I really like how she lives with her head held high, and she knows that any day that she could die, but she doesn't let that stop her from enjoying life. And plus, she's quite accident prone in this volume, so I thought that was pretty humorous. It's just, Haru always seems to surprise me in one way or another. So anyway, point number 10. The main members of the Shishigumi kept on chewing on one of Louis' old antlers from the previous volume, I think it was, to keep their jaw strength up. Now, the Shishigumi want Louis to be their boss permanently, since they really don't like Melon that much, since all he lets them eat is, of course, fruit of melon, and then he gets all the meat since he can't taste anything, and it tastes like sand to him. And according to Dashiko, the musk cat, he doesn't really have any sexual desires or any way to feel any actual pleasure from everyday things we take for granted. And Melon as a character is crazy as hell, but it's just really fascinating to hear all of his little quirks and everything within this volume, and I just thought that was really interesting. Point number 11, Louis decides to meet up again with Lugoshi and the Shishigumi to figure out more details on how to deal with Melon, and again, during the meeting with the Kopi Luwark organization leader, they were only able to get Melon's legal activities from him. No illegal activities, just, run-of-the-mill average stuff, and Melon turns out to be a pretty much average guy in normal society's eyes. And again, my next point, Dashiko researches mixed species beast to know their actual value, because, in Melon's case, he doesn't have any pleasures, he can't taste anything, everything that he eats turns to taste out like sand, and it's just a really fascinating experience within this volume. It's just, we get more depth on Haru and Lugoshi'S relationship, we get more depth with Melon the hybrid, and it really opens up a whole new avenue of things and questions as we read along. So, point number 13, carnivores were known as life-eating beasts and herbivores were known as nature-eating beasts before the carnivore and herbivore war. I hope in the next volume that we get more information on this. Turns out we kind of will, so spoiler alert, not spoiler alert, because that was the subject the history professor was talking about, the first carnivore-herbivore world war, and it was just a really interesting thing. According to the professor, both sides were kind of living in harmony for something, threw everything out of balance, and we got the society that we have now, the conflict between carnivores and herbivores within normal societal life. And we see the struggles of both sides of carnivores and herbivores, and I just thought it was really interesting. So anyway, my next point is that Lugoshi chases Melon to a more populated part of the city where there are herbivore surveillance systems in place to protect herbivores from carnivore attacks. Now, when Lugoshi'S fur turns white and he decided to leave Haru at his apartment, he goes on after for Melon, and Melon and Agata are having a discussion since he's never been hugged before. Melon hasn't. So, Lugoshi and Melon end up brawling after Lugoshi'S just tapping at the window like this and just pointing out to his ear injury, his gunshot wound injury scar, and he just ends up smashing right into the window, and it's just really phenomenal. A really phenomenal panel to see, and you see all the beautiful glass shattering, and it just looks like diamonds to me, in my opinion, and it is just really beautiful. So, anyway, my final thoughts on this volume. Lots of great backstory for Haru and Melon in this volume. I mean, we get to see Melon as a child, within it. So, again, I'm just going to mention it briefly there. Go read the manga. Please support the official release. So I give Volume 17 of Beastars an 8.9 out of 10. It's really solid, really great, and I look forward to reading Volume 18 when it releases. In May, I think it is. But yeah, 8.9 out of 10. I give Beastars Volume 17. Anyway, this is Kite562 signing out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more content from this channel. What was your favorite part from Beastars Volume 17? Let me know down in the comments below. Well, this is Kite562 signing out, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, everybody. Later.